Hope everybody's doing well. So we're going to bring Marcel on right now. Um, so if anybody ever tries to do this, less coffee in the morning would be a good idea when there's not a lot of time for breaks. So I'm very excited now to welcome in my good friend Marcel Schwantes. We can see Marcel's coming on. Hello, sir.
Good morning.
It is still morning, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining. I am so excited to, first talk about how much fun we've had together over the last year and a half, getting to know each other and being together out in LA and Chattanooga and watching the great works that you're doing with your writing and with the with your podcast, Love in Action podcast. It's been wonderful to see you put your imprint on the world, Marcel, and I want to thank you for being such a great support and inspiration for me along the way.
Well, I appreciate that, Mike. Let me see here. Do I need to turn? Maybe that will kill the feedback. Thank you, sir. It's mutual. I believe that we're all kind of hanging on your coattails as we each carve our own path to make the world a better place in our workplaces. We're following your lead.
Noel.
Since we last chatted, we had, I'm going to cut this real short, a tornado tore through Chattanooga, and we were on the path.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh. So dealing with, the aftermath and insurance companies and, fixing roofs and all that good stuff.
Right. That's a double whammy, right? So it's disrupted enough, but then to have the physical shelter, that's a lot of emotional insecurity that
yeah, the locals in Chattanooga are calling it the COVID-NATO. COVID-NATO 2020.
The sense of humor that people have, you know what I mean? In times of trouble, it is amazing, the resilience, isn't it, Marcel?
Well, resilience, absolutely. I mean, I think that this city has, every time I see tragedy take place, people rise up to the occasion, and strong leaders will always are the ones that are leading the way. They bounce back. And I am in deep gratitude because, I'm usually in the position where I'm giving, but in order for you to be able to give, you also have to have open hands to receive. And we were overwhelmed by the support of family, friends, neighbors, complete strangers coming up to us in the street. Because, our garage basically flipped over and landed 20 feet away.
Oh.
And we had people literally handing us money. It was quite it was fascinating. And so that taught me a lot about, that took gratitude to a whole new level for me.
So. Yeah. Oh, I was not aware of that. Now I'm like stunned as I'm processing all of that. That's crazy, because that really is like danger.
Yeah. This thing was 1,500 yards. So basically, it was 15 football fields wide, and it carved the path about 14 miles long. And it was an EF3. So EF3 is 145 mile an hour winds.
Right.
And I had 30 seconds to grab my 6-year-old and my wife and literally dive into our master bedroom closet, in a walk-in closet. It was quite surreal as we were diving in. The windows were exploding even before we shut the door.
Oh man! Because crazy. You don't have basements, right? There is no lower level so you have to find the small room that has the structure and the containment around.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Wow.
and the wife and I had to push against the door with all our strength because it wanted to blow in and suck us out. So we had to, with all our strength, push back against the wind, holding the door. So it's great.
That is just
Good times.
crazy. That is just crazy. Who knew that was going to come into our day today? Oh my gosh. I'm just pouring out. Thank goodness that,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we're grateful.
Wow.
And we bounce back and we move on and we look forward to serving those that have served us well. So
Well, and you do that so well with, every day you do that, right? I mean, it's in your nature, Marcel. That's why it's been, such a great joy to develop the friendship and to get to know you and have that support, because I watch you bring that into all you do, right? In business and consulting, we get to see that, me along with the 1.5 million people a month that get to read what you share out with the world in your writing, your articles. I think you bring that depth of conversation forward so well with Love and Action podcast. And you've interacted with, some of the great leaders in this world that I think are showing the way that things can be done, that we can actually love and treat people properly and still be tremendously successful in all our ventures.
yeah. And I always, there's a stigma around the word love. So I always have to push back against the misconceptions of what people are interpreting love to mean. In this case, we're talking about practical love, not romantic love. It's, Ken Blanchard sat with me and said servant leadership, for those coming from that philosophy of leadership. He said servant leadership is love in action. And I ran with that title. So the podcast partly is, thanks to Ken and what he said, ran with that title, but it's agape love, right? It's basically creating the conditions necessary for people to thrive and perform at a high level, because we're talking about business here. And so to love well in the workplace as a leader is to do that, is to remove the obstacles in people's path. It's to set them up for success.
That's beautiful. That is perfectly stated. And how funny that we run away from that word and we embrace so many others that speak to it, right? So yeah. The compassion, the empathy, the care, the concern, the
respect.
Yes. All of those surrounding words we're learning to bring into our vocabulary, but we shy away from the only one that I think is powerful enough to play in the sandbox with fear and greed, right? It's, if we're going to take the 4-letter word fear, then let's come at it with the 4-letter word love and actually equal the challenge.
Yeah. Well, it might be too out there for people to call it love. In fact, the gentleman that follows me, Bob Chapman, we've talked, and I asked him point blank, can you call it love? He goes, no, we're going to call it care. He's a caring organization. He'll tell you next. So really, whatever you want to call it, Mike, humans first. It's aspiring to a higher form of leadership, and we need to pivot. I think it's crucial right now as we slowly come out of this pandemic, knock on wood. Where is that? Okay. That we pivot to a different type of style of leadership and looking differently through our lenses about people rather than seeing them as objects, as a means to an end. That we value human beings and realize that they come first in business, especially our employees.
And I think that choice is becoming more clear than ever, right? The lens is very focused on, as we put 20,000 or 20 million people out of work in a very short period of time, just in the United States, many more, worldwide, the choice people have to re-enter the workforce is going to be very different than just going back to whoever has a paycheck. But it's that organization that showed the care, the compassion, that they have values and vision for the business. I think that the leadership choice is going to be more clear than ever.
It will have to be, because that's what's going to sustain companies long term, and employees coming back from being furloughed, laid off, or even those coming in, the fresh blood coming into a organization, they're going to look to those kinds of leaders to pave the way and take care of them. People are still, we're still in a time of uncertainty and fear and doubt. And the leaders that are going to be strong and successful in the post-COVID era are the ones that are going to calm people's emotions down and reassure them and let them know, hey, we're going to be okay, and we're all in this together. So those, I think, are the leaders that are really going to rise up.
I get so excited jumping into the conversation. So we're 10 minutes into the half hour here, and I want to be able to turn this over to you, come off camera, go silent, and just let you have the stage here for some time, if you're good and prepared for that.
Sounds good. I'm prepared. I might talk to you as if you were here. So
excellent. I will be here. I will just be in the background.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Marcel.
Yeah. So what we're finding, and this is, I talk a lot about leadership from a leading a team standpoint. I'm going to kind of flip the switch a little bit and take a different turn here. We know that in this day and age, leadership is a mindset. And Mike, just like your book, Believership, I think that the pivot we need to make is really in our thinking and our belief system, not in more strategies and more best practices. I know I'm taking a line right out of your book. The reality that will shape the success of your leadership, I'm speaking to you listeners right now and watchers of the YouTube. I think it goes through the lens through which your brain views the world and how you interpret things around you. So if we change the lens of how we view leadership, not only can we change our own outlook to the positive and, increase our own engagement, our happiness, our well-being as leaders, I believe we can change every single business outcome at the same time. So if you're operating through a mindset of fear and scarcity, my guess is that you're probably not happy. So if you are currently in a culture that is fear-based, and maybe there's conflict among teams, and your turnover is high, here's what I'm asking you to do to help begin to shift how your brain processes the immediate world around you. So plenty of research suggests that when leaders are committed to creating an environment of kindness lived out in your corporate values daily, they're going to see a happier workplace and an improved bottom line. So I'm going to reference a study. This was a group of employees at Coca-Cola in Spain. And this group of employees, they were asked to perform five acts of kindness for their coworkers for a period of 1 month. So we're talking about everyday small things like, grabbing coffee for your coworker who may be, stuck to their cubicle, or writing a thank you email, or even offering encouragement to somebody. So after this experiment, both the givers and the receivers of these small acts of kindness reported greater well-being and more satisfaction of their basic psychological needs. Basically, their psychological needs were met, which I believe, and I think the research will back this up, Mike, is crucial for high performance. We have to have our psychological and emotional needs met. Now, check this out. 1 month after the experiment, These people not only had higher job satisfaction, they had overall higher life satisfaction at homes, in their own communities, and also fewer symptoms of depression. Now, what I just told you about was actually for the givers. The receivers of kindness, they felt more autonomy, and 1 month later, they were also much happier and much more satisfied with their work. But here's what really struck me about this study, is that the receivers began to perform more acts of kindness towards others. So just by observing the behaviors of coworkers, peers, colleagues, bosses exhibiting more kindness, they were paying kindness forward. So kindness begets kindness and transforms your workplace. Now, we don't do it to feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Oh no, so that's certainly a benefit. We do it because it's good for business, and it helps people to feel good about themselves, which translates to better performance. So we have to make the business case for it, and so this works. Okay, so now that you've gotten some basic ideas about how to express kindness inside your organization, and you know your culture, you know what works, you know what's going to inspire your people or your team, etc. I think it's important, especially in a pandemic with so much uncertainty still up in the air, that we as leaders don't neglect nurturing ourselves with self-kindness. So what does that look like? Well, one way is by expressing more gratitude in our lives. I mentioned it. I got hit by a tornado. I took my gratitude to a whole new level, and it's made an immense change and difference in my life. So, but check this out though. One survey, it was a national survey commissioned by the John Templeton Foundation. They did a survey on gratitude. And they found that Americans, especially, are notoriously bad at expressing gratitude. So Americans, I'm speaking to you now because I know that this is a global audience. So let's do something about this right now. I'm going to kind of remove the hat of the information person that speaks and spews out information. Let's do something practical right now. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. So let me set this up this way. In all the research on positive psychology, and Mike, I want you to do this as well. I found a simple solution for us to express more gratitude in our lives. There are 4 simple exercises that we can do every morning, every day. So get pen and paper out, pull up a Word doc, because don't just hear me out. I need you to write this down so that you can apply it later and improve your own lives as leaders, because I promise you this is going to make a difference. So 4 short exercises. Here we go. Exercise number 1 that I'm asking you to do is to write down 3 acts of gratitude. Write down 3 acts of gratitude. So let me set it up. What 3 new things are you grateful for? So every morning during your quiet time, before the kids get up and before your phone starts blowing up, write it down. And you spend no more than 2 minutes per day doing this. Now here's the kicker. The research says that if you do it for 21 straight days, so write the number 21. If you do it for 21 straight days, you're training your mind to scan for positives instead of negatives. And so this activity that I just told you is the fastest way to teach optimism. And right now, we definitely need more optimism. And if you are, I would say, the healthy optimistic type, that's great. But this activity will significantly improve your own optimism and even raise your success rates, even 6 months later. All it takes is 2 minutes for 21 straight days. All right, exercise number 2 is journal 1 positive experience. All it takes is 2 minutes as well. So write in detail about 1 positive experience you've had during the last 24 hours. And bullet point each detail that you can remember. So according to the research, this allows your brain to relive the experience, which teaches it that positive behaviors matter. And again, if you do this ritual every morning for 21 days, your brain reprograms to the positive throughout your life. In fact, research found that patients suffering from chronic disease or pain had dropped their medication by 50%, even 6 months later. 2 minutes per day, 21 days in a row. Exercise number 3, Mike. Meditate for 2 minutes per day. Meditate for 2 minutes per day. So for people not familiar with meditation techniques, what I'm asking you to do in a place of quiet where you have no interruptions, yes, that means parking your phone somewhere else in another room, is to do a breathing exercise where you're present and in the moment. You're not thinking about what you're gonna do today or the next hour. So now that your mind is not cluttered, you wanna breathe in, hold it in from your gut, and then breathe out. And you do this as you watch your breath go in and out. As you breathe in and out, you're watching it go in and out. Do this for 2 minutes and don't think about anything else. Just breathe. So this allows your brain to focus on one thing at a time and be present in the moment. And according to the research, Mike, this is going to help improve your level of happiness and drop your stress level as well. All it takes is 2 minutes per day. Last exercise, and this is the most important one. Express kindness through a text or an email. So I'm asking you to spend 2 minutes per day writing a positive email or text every morning. You want to praise or thank someone you know for something the previous day. And do it for a different person each day. So the research on this is clear. Leaders who do this become known as positive leaders with strong social connections. And we know that strong social bonds and relationships have been found to be the greatest predictor of long-term success. All it takes is 2 minutes for 21 days. So if you're skeptical listening to me right now, rest assured that these techniques are linked to the bottom lines of some of the largest companies in the world, including Google. So by doing these activities every morning, you're training your brain again to be positive for the rest of the day. And you're teaching yourself self-kindness and self-compassion. So what happens is, and you know, Melissa Hughes is going to speak to this later, your brain is releasing feel-good chemicals and creating a positive mindset for the long term. I preach about leadership being about building people up and growing others and meeting the needs of others. That is never going to change. But leadership also means that it starts with us by taking care of ourselves first before we take care of others. Thanks, Mike, for the opportunity. I love that you're doing this. So I'll let you pop back in.
Thank you, and I am here, and I'll come back on video. That was fabulous. You know what? Thank you for taking us through an exercise. And on the YouTube, Marcel, there's a little bit of delay, so you kind of, you know, you watch people catch up with it, and then get a feel. So there was a lot of following along, which was wonderful. I was here, and I took the chance to step off of my stool here and stand up, which felt good. I love the simplicity, you know, and I think that it's not easy, but it's not complicated. It's hard to do it, right? Because it takes the discipline of consistency. And then to be able to pause on those few words, right? And take those constant small actions. Yeah. On a consistent basis it's not complicated, but it's funny how difficult it can be to stay focused on those things that most matter.
And you know, it's funny. It's all it takes is when you combine all those exercises, really, we're looking at 10 minutes at the most every morning in your deepest, in your most sacred time in the morning, as you take time for yourself before the world around you starts to unravel. This just kind of sets your, if I may use the word, spirit in the right place, in the right setting for you to take on the day. Especially as, there's so many decisions we need to make right now in the world that we live in. So, and of course, like I said at the end, leadership starts with us first, self-leadership. How are we leading ourselves? How are we taking care of ourselves, our mind, our bodies, our spirits? And I think that's crucial.
Yes, I love that. And, Marcel, I want to touch on, we'll come back because I want to be able to give you a really strong close. But when you talk about meditation, I think, when you bring it to the breathing, slowing down and getting breathing, what people really miss is they think that somehow this, sitting on a mountain and that there's this
like this
transcendence, woo-woo stuff. And what I want to bring it to the practicality is some of us watch sports or enjoy sports. And when we see an athlete that has extended themselves or they've emptied their energy out and they're at the end of that activity and they're breathing really, really hard to recover, to recapture their breath. In itself, there is a meditative state they go into while they are recovering to prepare for what's next. And I think we miss the natural human rhythm that is created through that exercise. It's not a mythical or mystical practice. It's something very real where we engage our mind, our body, and our full selves back together. And so I really, really appreciate you emphasizing that today.
Thank you, sir.
Any closing remark? Any last words before we take a quick pause here?
My only closing remarks is that if you're in a leadership position or aspiring to be a leader, is that you remember why you're taking on the immense responsibility to put yourself in that role. Okay, it's a high aspiring thing to do, to be able to be in that position, because it's about improving the lives of others. And I know that I'm banging the drum of servant leadership because that's the world I come from, because it's proven and it works. But I'm saying that if you choose to put yourself in the position of leading others and influencing others, always remember why you do it. You do it, yes, there's a business reason why you do it. It's to help grow your business and and serve your customers well and all your stakeholders. But the essence of true leadership is about serving the needs of others. That's my closing remark.
Thank you very much, Marcel. It's just a great joy to have you with us today. And again, just personally, deep appreciation for all the strength and support and the love and the great messaging you bring to the world.
Pleasure. Right back at you, sir. You're doing amazing things, and we are all grateful.
Appreciate you, my friend.
All right.
Talk soon.
Bye.